What's up, guys? This is Harry Dale coming at you with another video here on Boxing Chat. Real quick preview of tonight's fights, and I'm gonna touch on a couple things that happened yesterday. So first of all, I'd like to say Merry Boxing Christmas to all the boxing fans, and for all the fans of boxing, you know exactly what I'm talking about because it's an early Christmas for us. Because tonight is a great night of boxing. Tonight we're gonna get to open our gifts and see if we got socks for Christmas or if we got the new iPhone 6. Because some fights could be stinkers, some fights could be, fight of the year, where we're just not sure. It's a very unpredictable night of boxing, which I love, because you don't ever want to see a fight where, you're gonna know 100% this guy's gonna win, because it's not exciting. Why watch a movie when you know the ending? You know what I'm saying? Why watch the replay of a game you recorded, the World Series, but then somebody tells you, hey, this team won. Ah, you fucked it up for me. Now I don't want to watch it. That's what it is when you see a matchup where somebody is completely outclassed just on paper. But tonight, that is not the case. You got Bradley versus Chaves, who, and Bradley is a top world-class fighter. You got Chaves, who presents challenges and is very strong early on. And we know Bradley, and we know how he fights. He could either box or he can brawl. We don't know what type of Bradley we're going to get tonight. So the first couple rounds are going to be very interesting. And Bradley, yes, is the favorite, but I wouldn't put my house on it. Okay, I'm going to tell you that much. Let's go ahead and move on to some other fights. Mauricio Herrera versus Jose Benavidez Jr. For those who don't know these fighters, Mauricio Herrera, of course, coming off a pretty good year, beating Danny Garcia even though he got robbed, beating Johan Perez, and now he's facing a top prospect. And it's Mauricio Herrera just he has balls. Okay, he didn't have to fight this kid. Where do you see a fighter who is clearly a top guy at 140 or in any division, a top guy in any of their divisions, get robbed in a very I guess lucrative fight in your career, fighting the unified champion, then become the interim champion, facing another top guy, and then going on to facing the top prospect. Many would say that's a step backwards. It's a low risk. It's a high risk, low reward type of fight. Because if you beat a top prospect, they're gonna say, "Ah, he was a prospect." What is that gonna do for your career? And because many don't know who Benavidez is, and Benavidez is a very solid fighter. He is aware that he needs to really show up tonight. And it's on him if he wants to arrive or he wants to wait. So that is an interesting fight. Mauricio Herrera is the favorite, but Benavidez is not just any prospect. Okay, let me put it that way. And that fight, that's an interesting matchup. Very interesting matchup. Seriously. Got the veteran versus the top prospect, who could be a future world-class fighter. We just don't know yet. But tonight we'll find out. Then we got Andy Lee versus Korobov. We'll have a new middleweight champion tonight. And we're gonna have a possible next opponent for Golovkin. And Golovkin is fighting Murray, but I'm talking about after that. And I'm not trying to talk down Murray, but Golovkin is just too much for him right now. Golovkin is just too strong. He's on a roll. Murray doesn't present any challenges because Murray doesn't fight. He had a chance to beat Martinez and he didn't take it. So he's not beating Golovkin. But tonight we're gonna see a possible opponent for Golovkin in the Canelo versus Cotto card, because they're going to put Golovkin on the card. Okay, that's happening. Golovkin had said himself he's going to fight in May. Why not put him with the other champion that's going to be crowned tonight, and then have a middleweight tournament, a little mini middleweight tournament, because all the belts are going to be on the line that night. You know, Golovkin will be going for the WBO, and he already has the WBA, and then you got Miguel Cotto having the WBC, and the IBF. It's not on the line. Nobody's fighting that has the IBF, which is of course Jermaine Taylor, but yeah, that's nobody sees Jermaine Taylor as a real middleweight champion. No disrespect, but I mean he's not what he was back in the day. Anyways, moving on. So that's gonna be an interesting matchup. Andy Lee has been here before and fallen short. Many say he got a lucky knockout win in his last fight. And Korobov, many people are interested to see him fight because they're just trying to find out why Quillen turned down the fight. Why did he turn down the fight with this guy? Is he this good? People are going to find out today, and they want to see him, and they're interested. Moving on to Showtime card, we got Con Alexander, and everybody keeps talking about the winner gets Floyd, which I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that's the case for Alexander. Fortunately for him, if he beats Khan, he's not getting in there with the fight. Okay, it's just not gonna happen. If Khan loses, he's not getting in there with the fight, of course. If Khan looks terrible in a win that's mediocre, he's not getting in the fight either. And as far as the fight itself, between those two guys, look, it could either go it could be a very great fight, or it could be a very boring fight. Because, and the reason I say that is because it depends on what they are going to come in with, what game plan they're going to come in with, which is going to determine how the fight is going to play out. If Khan wants to be the aggressor, then and if Alexander wants to be the counterpuncher, we're going to see a pretty good fight. Because everybody says Alexander doesn't have devastating power, but not everybody says that about Danny Garcia. Yes, he has a solid power, he has that strong ass left hook, but he's not a devastating KO power punching fighter either. So, and we all know about Khan's chin, not just the chin, just his head in general. He can't take shots, which is unfortunate for him, because that's what's held him back, is his inability to take shots to the head. He just can't. He just can't. There's no way around it. But if they both decide to try to outbox each other, to try to show who's the better boxer, who's the fastest, then we're gonna be seeing a boring fight. Trust me. We're gonna see possibly a lot of back and forth. But you could also see, Alexander trying to steal the rounds by coming forward, by throwing a lot of punches and flurries at the end of the rounds, because he knows that Khan is, he's the marquee fighter. He's the guy that everybody's talking about. He's the one that everyone's talking about, fighting Floyd. So Khan knows that he's pretty much fighting in Amir Khan's backyard, technically, and he needs to do whatever he can to get those rounds in the bag. Because trying to knock Khan out, I think that's a little dumb. Because if you try to go for a knockout, then you're not gonna be focused on everything else. You're just gonna be focused on, I need to land that shot. I know Alexander is gonna be the counterpuncher, and he's gonna see how that works. If he could be successful as a counterpuncher, then he's gonna stick to that. And if Khan makes the adjustments, he might go to trying to be faster than Khan. And then if that doesn't work, then he'll just try to dog it out and try to pressure Khan, put him up against the ropes, pin him up in the corner, because Khan is not a good stationary defensive fighter. He can't be defensive if he's staying still. He can't. He needs to get out of the way for him to not get hit. That's Khan's defense. He's not going to stand there and avoid punches, slipping, sliding, all that stuff. He doesn't. He just doesn't defend that way. He doesn't know how. He has to get out the way, or if he's trapped in a corner and he can't escape, he just puts his earmuffs on and tries to clinch. So, like I said, this could be an interesting fight, or this could be a complete stinker. But there's not a for sure winner, which I like. All right, let's move on to Keith Thurman versus Bundu. Look, Keith Thurman, by calling out Floyd, he's put a lot of pressure on himself to win this fight, and not just win, but I mean like look fantastic, and he needs to knock Bundu out. He needs to make a statement. Otherwise, he's gonna look like a fool saying all this stuff yesterday and then not looking good tonight. And I know that he's aware of that, and I think he's embracing it. I think he feels like he needs to really pressure himself to be better and to perform at a very world class level. Also being fan friendly, which is very rare. Okay, and that's what I like about Thurman. He just wants to be exciting for the fans. Now everybody's saying that Bundu is a nobody. He's a bum. He's a journeyman. Of course, you're gonna for the fans, for the casual fans that aren't familiar with Bundu, they're gonna say that, and I'm sure they haven't even checked out his previous fights, and I'm sure they're just going with the popularity side of it, as far as I don't know who he is, he sucks, because that's just how a lot of the casual fans, that's how they are, that's how they react. But Bundu is a solid opponent. It presents challenges. He's not gonna fold the first time Thurman lands his shot. That he's not going to be there to. He's not going there for the paycheck. He wants to win because he knows that if he gets a win over Thurman, the doors, they're just wide open for him, and he could have a very nice, solid, bright future. I guess a bright, more like bright ending, because he's 40. But he could have a nice bright ending and a happy ending to his career, so where he could finish off nice and get some good money. So he really wants to win. And as far as how the fight could play out, look, Thurman, look, I'm a huge fan of Keith Thurman. Okay, for the record, I'm a huge fan of Thurman, and I'm always excited to see him fight. But what has impressed me about Thurman, okay, because I started off, I remember the first time I heard about Thurman, it was here on YouTube, of course. My boy 78, 78 Sports TV, he talked about him a lot before anybody was. And I was like, who is this Keith Thurman? So I looked him up and saw some interviews with him that he had, and he was calling out Pacquiao and saying he's going to knock out Cotto and knock out Pacquiao and all this other stuff. And I was like, man, get out of here. Shut the fuck up with that. But then I went ahead and just like, let me watch his fights. And I started watching all his fights that are available on YouTube, and I was very impressed. Very impressed. And then I look back and I think back, and when he was saying he'll knock out Cotto and Pacquiao, then I was like, yeah, he'll knock him out. He'll knock them all out. Because Thurman, he's not just a power puncher. He's not a one punch kind of guy. He doesn't need to win with his power. Okay. Early on, he was a mess. Okay. He fought just with power. Early on, he was very tight. He was very wound up. He only looked for the big power shots. He was very irresponsible with his defense. He didn't set up his shots all the time, and he was a little reckless, relentless. But he was able to get away with it because the caliber of opponents at early on in his career weren't pushing him, or they didn't worry him too much. And then fight after fight over time now, leading up to tonight, he has been improving every time, and that's what I just cannot believe. Like, because he was early on, he was dubbed as he's a power puncher. He has to get the knockout. That's the only way he's gonna win fights. Oh, but then things changed when he fought Zavik. Even when he fought Quintana, he was still a little wild and getting tagged with the shots that he could have avoided. but he was looking for the knockout. He was trying to make a statement. And then he fought Savic, and he was boxing beautiful, and I was like, what? Like, and he was showing some speed, which he didn't show before in the past. Combinations, fighting smart, not just head hunting. You know, he was going to the body, mixing it up, all that stuff. He was being defensive. He was very confident in his defense, making Savic miss and making him pay. And and he went 12 rounds, you know, and he was not tired. He looked fresh all 12 rounds, and I was like, oh, here we go. Then he fights Chaves, looks great, boxing beautifully. His speed got better. I feel like Thurman has tapped into a lot of tools that he didn't want to use, or he didn't even know they were available to him, or he didn't think that those were his best tools. But over time, now we see that he has speed, because before he was just too wound up and just trying to land every shot hard and devastating, and now he knows, you know, to take it back a little bit. Not every punch has to be a knockout punch, and he's just gotten quicker and he's faster with his hands. He has good footwork, which he has good head movement, very underrated head movement. He has these little things in his game when he's offensive. You know, it almost looks like he's telegraphing, but he's actually not. He's actually setting up a different shot, and that confuses the hell out of opponents. You know, he's very awkward. He's not a typical basic fighter, basic boxer, and he's not a typical basic brawler, or he's not a typical basic power puncher. You know what I mean? He's a different breed. He's very exciting. And of course Diaz, just outclassing him. Of course Karras, the same thing. It's just he's getting better over time, and the longer time goes by with other fighters avoiding him, it's going to be worse for them, because he's shown to improve over time, and he hasn't even reached his prime yet. He's starting to step into the very first instances of his prime years. And once he peaks, oh man, he's gonna be, whew, he's gonna be a beast, straight up. Like he could be the king of boxing, you know. He could be the guy. But you know, only time will tell. But he's well on his way. You know, he's well on his way. Let's move on to. Let me just touch on Victor Ortiz real quick, because some people are still interested in Victor Ortiz and they still want to know what's going on with him. Look, Victor Ortiz is making his pro debut tonight. Okay. And for the ones who are watching boxing for the first time and are confused by the time they announce his name and they say his record, well, I thought Herrera said he's making his debut. Listen to me. You know, he's coming off multiple losses. He's been dubbed a quitter. He doesn't have it anymore. He never had it. All these things, right? Joel Diaz straight up told Victor, you know what? If I'm going to train you, we're going to do it my way, and you're going to start over. So tonight, Victor Ortiz is going to have 0 wins, 0 losses, 0 draws, 0 knockouts. From this point on, Joel Diaz is going to have Victor start a new career. And he's going to have to work his way up back into being a top contender, because he's not a contender right now, not at all. And if he wins tonight, that's not going to make him a contender right away. That's foolish. Okay, that's stupid. The fans aren't dumb. He's going to have to work his way into becoming a contender, and that could happen in 2016. Because 2015, he's still going to be trying to pick up steam and still try to improve and get some good wins. But not against any top guys, not just yet. Okay, so we're going to be seeing a new start to a different career in Victor Ortiz's already existing career, if you would say. You know, a new career within a career, pretty much. Because I mean, it shows in the opponent. I mean, he only has 4 knockouts, so obviously they're trying to build Ortiz's confidence back up. And they're trying to see if he has anything left and if he wants it. Okay, because the skills are there, but we don't know if the hunger is there. We don't know if the heart is there. We don't know mentally if he wants to be there. And that's a lot of uh, that's a lot of challenges to overcome within himself. And if he can get over all that, and he says, you know what, I'm a boxer, I'm not an actor, I'm not a dancer, I'm a boxer. People have been ridiculing me, and I'm sick of it. I need to make a statement. I need to start over, and I need to take my time. And I think that's what's happening. But we got to see. If he loses, then he's done. All right, I don't want to hear that. Oh, there's possibly, maybe there's another chance. Like, no, he's done. If he loses tonight, he's finished. And you know what? That's fine. You know, sometimes, you know, things like this happen. You know, you see guys that could have been great, but it never happened. But we're gonna find out tonight. Boxing tonight is going to be very exciting. I'm very excited for tonight. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end it right here. I'm gonna have another video coming up next with my official picks, and I want to know what you guys think about tonight's fight. Are you excited for the card? Are you gonna watch them both? Are you gonna record one and then watch one live and then watch the recorded one later on? Are you not interested? Or are you interested just in one fight? Are you interested in just one fight from HBO, one fight from Showtime? Let me know, guys. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. And watch out for the next video where I have my official picks. So until next time, see you later, guys.